Let's go.
Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. I'm your host, David Horsager. Join me as I sit down with influential leaders from around the world to discuss why leaders and organizations fail, top tactics for high performance, and how you can become an even more trusted leader. Welcome to the Trusted Leader Show. It's David Horsager. I have a special guest. She is a friend. She's the founder of Savvy U. She's also been a senior consultant for us at Trust Edge and the Trust Edge Leadership Institute. She's amazing. She is a WNBA chaplain. She's been that for over 22 years with the Minnesota Lynx. She's a passionate leader. She's a mentor of many. Please welcome my friend, Michelle Backus. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, David. I'm excited to visit with you.
Oh, this is going to be great. I'm so excited to hear what you're doing these days, and I know you've still been doing some things for us, but tell us about Savvy U. You're jumping right in. Actually, before that, just tell us something about you.
About me? Well, I am an empty nester. I guess that's the first thing that came to mind. So both my kids are off in college right now, so we're on my husband Ron and I are on the Great Reset, we're calling it.
Wow. And what have you done? What's something you've done to reset?
Oh, man, we've done everything from blood panels, health-wise, to new routines around the house. And we just had a lot of fun. Planning some vacations. We've been doing some adventures. Did a knee surgery in there for Ron. I mean,
Ron was a former, well, he's quite an athlete, but was a former Olympian shot putter too. And you've both were and are athletes, and you've created athletes. It's quite a journey you've been on in many different ways. But let's jump in here because I want to hear about Savvy U. That's a new really passion for you about transforming lives and people. In fact, you're telling me about an event you had this weekend, so I want to hear about that. Tell us about Savvy U. What's behind that?
Well, I have this wonderful position with the Trust Edge Leadership Institute that was affected by COVID as far as flying around and sharing this message, and for you as well. And so during this time, I saw an opportunity just to put together some of the things I was also out doing on the side with helping people be their best Savvy U. Savvy in Latin, S-A-V-V-Y, means to be wise. And I have a couple decades. Now you get older, now you start chunking things in decades under my belt of doing chaplain work and studying the Bible and applying it in practical ways to one's life, my life. And I just kept getting some calls and people, hey, do you have a card? Didn't have a card. Do you have a website? Nope. So I put that together during this time, and I'm really excited. We had an event this weekend, actually. We took 5 professional women. They took Friday off of work, and we had a Savvy U adventure, and it was fantastic. Went up north. We went outside, even though it was 15 below.
And snowshoed and everything else, right?
Yeah. Mountain bike. The place where we stayed had some fat bikes, and it was great. So we body stretched, and exercise, and we also soul stretched. And so Savvy U is a safe place to share and work on your heart.
Yeah.
And retune and look at leadership from a biblical perspective.
You also had some creative stuff in there, like you stopped at an art studio, right? And that was a part of it. And you said people came alive. Before that, we were talking about people came alive with that. I think that's so. That creativity, that almost inner child. I'm working with sometimes some of the toughest edge leaders in the world in some ways, and it's like you give them a space to like be creative and almost change it up a little bit where they can take their armor off and they come alive. But tell me, what did you guys do that way?
So I hadn't met him. I only knew one woman. I didn't know any of these other women. And again, like I said, all leaders, strong, very intelligent women, kind of probably curious, what are we going, what's the Savvy U? And so that was our first stop. And it was at Pam Anderson. She's in town up here in Lindstrom. And we did a a project with coasters and alcohol ink, but not like tattoo and alcohol. It was actually, it's a neat medium. And if you mess up on these tiles, you could throw it down, take the paper towel and wipe it off and throw it down on the ground. And that was the first thing that we started doing. And then Pam, they're like, where should we put these? And Pam goes, oh, just throw it on the ground. And it became this playful, like, when in our life do we ever just throw something on the ground? And I tell you what, that's going to be something in leadership even that I'm going to share, like, metaphorically, throw it on the ground. Like I always want to make sure the dishes are in bed, done at night, and just, we can get so driven and type A, like, just throw it on the ground. And by the end, we were laughing just because it was fun. Even throughout the weekend at this cabin, we're like, just throw it on the ground. We'll get it later.
Yeah.
And it was really freeing.
Love it.
So that was a fun play. Creative play is so important.
Absolutely.
You could just programming of all of us took the edge off.
Well, you're an expert for us on the learning front, and we've appreciated the transformative work you've done in many, and even helping us be better and better and better here at Trust Edge Leadership Institute. But you talk a lot about the heart of leadership. What's that mean?
That's actually something I've incorporated into the Savvy You. And I know I keep pushing you at the Trust Edge, like, hey, but what about people these leaders are freaking out with anxiety, and they're not sleeping, and they're not throwing stuff on the ground once in a while. And two things on that have been significant to me with the heart. Really quickly, I have a brother-in-law that I have 5 brother-in-laws, and they're all, my husband's a big guy, and they're all big, strong Eagle Scout kind of guys. And two of them were in Hawaii snorkeling a couple years ago, and they were out pretty far, and the one brother was like, I'm having a hard time breathing, and he's very athletic, played college football. And you, for sure, because they're conscientious Eagle Scouts, you don't stand on a coral reef. That's just like you don't do it. And the one brother who was in the Navy Academy, said, you got to stand here. So by long story short, when he got home to the 48 mainland, he went to a doctor appointment and had to get some things checked out. And they looked at his heart, and he said to the doctor, what is that underneath my heart? And he goes, no, the thing above was his heart. He had an aneurysm that was 9.6 centimeters wide. Your aorta is about 2 centimeters. All that to say, the Bacchuses and all the boys, especially all the cousins, and the nieces and nephews, everybody had to get their heart checked. Another brother had to have so 2 of them had open heart surgery because of this. And we also have a neighbor, a couple doors down, that needed a heart transplant. He was on the list for a long time, and he finally got a heart transplant in May. I mean, he had the LVAD vest and everything. And you think all this attention we put on the heart medically, do we do it in leadership? Do we talk about it? We have, and so even when Ron, my husband, works with a lot of coaches, and it doesn't matter if it's high school coaches or Division I coaches, when he was kind of going through some of this heart stuff, he was talking to them about anxiety and sleep. And they're like, I don't sleep. Yeah, my heart pounds. And you start kind of getting under the hood of leaders. And I think there's a veneer that we need to be careful about ignoring. And so when I'm talking about the heart of leadership, I want to look under there. And on these Savvy You, whether it's individual or a group retreat, it's not all just group settings. In fact, I got an email yesterday, which was, I just went, it says, I am interested in a solo. Hey, Michelle, I am interested in a solo adventure, preferably a multi-day. I've been struggling with my faith for quite some time now, and I'm having trouble finding my way back. Let's go. And her courage and her humility. I mean, when do we do that? And one of the tools, I know this is a Trusted Leaders show, and one of the tools that I've incorporated in, I didn't make this up. You can find it out there on the internet, I'm sure, but it works great for marriage, works great for individuals, works great with your kids. It's called Phanos. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
Phanos. It's a Greek word, and it means to shed light into. We're getting personal here now. Ron and I'll do this before we go to bed. And we'll just run through Phanos. We set it up where one person goes through it and the other person just receives. You don't say anything. You're not going to be interrupted, but it's just a way to kind of clear out the arteries, if you will. And so F, and you try to keep it brief. F is for feelings. Identify and share a feeling. And we do this in the Savvy You too, because how do you feel? I don't know. Well, there's 8 primary emotions, but there's wheels out there that you can Google that we use to identify I'm just so mad. Well, what are you? And if you spin it out and you find out, I'm really disappointed. It's a lot easier to deal with disappointment than just mad. And I think that's part of the heart work. So feelings, the F for Fanos is feeling. Identify a word to how you're feeling. And it's not about us in our relationship. It could be, hey, I feel relieved. I just finished a big project or whatever. So it's not always interpersonal either. I mean, you could do this at work. What's a feeling you have knowing that people are going to contain you? That's a big word too, is containment. So F is for feel. A is for affirm. Give an affirmation to each other. Oh, we need that. That helps clear out the heart arteries, if you will. N is identify a need. And again, it's not necessarily from the other person. I need to finish my New Zealand travel book for my mom. I'm not going to tell you what year we went to New Zealand, right? But I need to finish that. So that's a need. It could be, I need, you to notice that the meals have been on the table last 3 days in a row. I'm 3 for 3 and it's an empty nest. Yeah. So feeling is for F, A is for affirm, N is for a need, identify a need. O is for ownership. And we've ratcheted it up this year as an empty nest as part of this great reset as extreme ownership. Oh man. But a leader owns it. You've mentioned that and spoken on that in some of your things. Leaders lead by sharing mistakes and being transparent with that. So extreme ownership for something. Again, it doesn't have to be interpersonal. It could be something that happened at work or whatever. And then the S can be a success to celebrate, because we need to do that, especially now. And that's good for the heart to have someone celebrate and have a safe place where you can go, hey, I rocked this, paper that I had to write, even for school or whatever. Or it can be for sobriety. And that can be something if, hey, I'm trying to lay off chocolate. It comes to my mind after Valentine's Day. Or I'm trying to, lay off something else. And how well we did, you can kind of have an accountability piece with that. So that's really good for the heart. Yeah. One way of checking on a heart of a leader. I want people, not even I guess for myself and my desire for leaders is that they lay their head on the pillow and can sleep.
I see it all the time. Yep. I remember working with one leader that's like, said privately to me, and he's a hard-edged top of a massive organization that everybody listening would know. And he said to me privately, one thing he said was he put his hand on my shoulder one time and said, I trust you. And it was like getting a French kiss. I mean, the guy just doesn't do that. Like, he was just like, but he said, it's kind of that imposter syndrome where he just said, I wake up every day with a pit in my stomach with the weight of this company and the problems and all this on me every single day. And I think, we talk about it a lot. If your source of strength is only in your work, you're worse at work. You're not doing as well at work, right? So that's awesome. So the Savvy You, this place to become wiser. I love the experiential learning piece of it. I love to throw it on the ground, and now we've got an idea in Fanos. We might come around to some other ideas, but let's talk about some other things for a minute. What seems to be there when it's a championship team? What's common to that? What do you see?
Well, from surface, you see camaraderie. Winning covers a multitude of things, by the way.
Yeah.
You see joy in the game. You don't see selfishness. You don't care who gets the bucket, and whoever does get the bucket, you see love and a lot of laughter. And if your heart, whether you're a basketball player or a leader or a moms and dads are leaders. So are freshmen in high school leaders. But if you don't have joy and laughter in your life, you're not going to win a championship or on your team. So I see the laughter, I see the camaraderie, the humor, and a lightness in it. They don't take themselves too serious because they become one. And behind the scenes, especially with Coach Cheryl Reeves, I know she is very, very prepared. And so there's a preparedness that champions have.
You've done a lot of mentoring and coaching, even on the side, in leadership and life. What I would like to jump into that even a little bit. What makes a great mentor? Okay, a lot of people, there's a lot of mentorship programs in companies, and you see some fall flat. What makes a great mentor, or even a great mentor relationship or program?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind on that is a great mentor is also being mentored. Mm-hmm. I even did a chaplain on the big four. I had Mount Rushmore up there and talked about you need to have these big four in your life, whether you're a mentor or a mentee or just a leader in general. And coming from a chaplain perspective, I called it, who's your Paul? Who's someone teaching you? Who's your Timothy? Someone that you are pouring into. Who's your Barnabas? And Barnabas is a biblical, historic biblical person that was an encourager to many. You need to have that. And then who's your Nathan? And Nathan is the one that went to King David and confronted him on a little issue that he had.
Right.
You can talk about that in Samuel 12 if you want.
So you've got your encourager, your confronter,
your confronter, yep.
Your come alongside, your kind of your peer, and your wise.
When you're pouring into.
Yep. Okay.
So I think that's a huge part of mentorship. It's not just one way. And there's some humility that comes with that too. So when I'm working with someone I'm mentoring, I'm saying, hey, I just learned that 3 months ago from the person I am, and I'm 30 years older than you. This is great for you to get this. And, working with a girl at Notre Dame. Oh, I wish I would have had this in college.
I see a lot of, some people make it too hard, and they're like, this is going to be a program. You got to commit to 50 times a month. They got to do this, they got to do that. I mean, that's a little exaggeration, but it's like, it becomes so hard that people don't last. They meet once, they do this, they do that. How do you, and I can say, I've been mentored by one meeting, for sure. But I think some of these more lasting relationships, there's some value to that too. But how do you set it up for success, I guess?
I think communication of expectations is huge. I can't make myself someone's mentor per se, and I don't like it if someone has made me their mentee. So I think you need to communicate, hey, what's your once every 2 weeks, what are your expectations? You have to be fluid. And in my perspective, if I'm in the role of a mentor, they guide the time schedule.
Hey, it's Ann with the Trust Edge team here. As you know, we are passionate about helping you and your team perform at your best. And that's why David wrote his new book, Trusted Leader. This true-to-life parable follows the story of a CEO who uncovers the root issue threatening his organization's success. And in the back half of the book, David provides a roadmap for even how to solve those root issues. Get Trusted Leader for your team, your organization, or even just for yourself at trustedleaderbook.com.
You've seen some leaders, you've mentored some even, that or champions or team members that have fallen off the cliff. They've failed miserably and even publicly. What are some of the traps of these leaders? What would you if you could have told them something ahead of time, or if you were going to tell our leaders, trusted leaders, how are you going to stay trusted? Like, how are you going to keep from, falling off the cliff?
Get a tribe. Get one person that you can be yourself, that you can take off your shoes and go, I'm a mess right now. And I know I just posted something on Instagram 40 minutes ago and I was super high and this, but inside I'm like someone who can, I think the ones who fall off the cliff, they have a bigger chasm between their reality and who they really are. And so if you need to come with me and Pam and throw some dirty paper towels on the floor and just let it loose. The facade and social media, I think, is the trap. To answer your question, I think that's we take ourselves way too serious sometimes.
We watched you go through, speaking of that, needing a tribe, and we all do. We talk about here, that great leaders seek feedback, right? They seek healthy accountability, and creating healthy accountability is significant. But you've gone through some challenges. I'm going to pick one for you. Because your daughter, she's a recruit at many significant schools to play ball. She gets recruited by a Big Ten school and scholarship and all this, and she basically never plays a day. And it's a couple year process and surgeries, and kind of she's become she's this amazing basketball star, and it's kind of all taken away. How did you coach then? Because this is different. This is personal, right? We got a lot of people we talk to here that are CEOs and are, leaders of actually pro sports teams we've had on, or, huge, massive followings or whatever. I mean, but everybody, this gets, how do we be a trusted leader then? How do we do it at home?
Right. Yeah. It's firing on all cylinders. You agree? Many times I'm like, I wish it was my knee. I wish it could be me. She had 5 surgeries, and her last game that she ever played in ended in I'm going to keep it above water here, ended in a standing ovation by everybody in the whole gym. How cool is that? Because she loved the game and she played it well, if I can honor my daughter in that respect. And then to go from rehabbing to every letter of the prescriptive PT plan and not work. And so it was hard. And I, at times, I just was at a conference Ron and I were at, and we heard something in this realm that I didn't always do well. Because after the 3rd surgery, how bad is it that you get good at surgeries? But the feelings just sometimes that aren't expressed get driven down. But in this conference, they said, if you want any communication tip, he said, match emotion with emotion and fact with fact. So how did that go at the Bacchus house? There's a lot of emotions. We're all passionate people. And sometimes, because I didn't even want to tap into my emotions, because I would answer with fact. I mean, not mean, like, oh, I'm so sorry, but you got to give up basketball someday. Look at me. I'm not playing, but that's not what she wanted to hear. Again and again. And she knew it. And she just needed me to sit in the well with her. So how did that go? It's tough, and it's hard, but you have to communicate through it. Hardships, though, she's an amazing woman, and we don't know the end of this story yet, but she's going into speech pathology and communication disorders, and she can identify with the struggles that these young and old people that she's going to work with. She's going to have a depth of compassion. So anyway, your question was what? It gets clouded in emotion, David. You went there. I'm
just asking, how do you lead through that? I mean, in essence, you're leading your daughter through something. Even there was a long period of time where you're kind of leading her, even though you're serving and listening, and you spoke to it by just sitting with her. But she's her own. She's an adult. She's a college student. Right. But you're through a time of life when she has to make a decision, and it was like, and over was, I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to go back, and then I'm going to go back next year, and then play one game or whatever. It just doesn't work out, doesn't heal. Yeah. But any words of advice on leading others through tough times, walking with them? How did you do it?
I just think it's really important, and I've often wondered, even in the counseling and working with some of these women in the WNBA that have major issues. I have not had a relative get shot, mm-hmm. or I have not experienced some of these things that many people have. Do I have to experience that to be able to, help them and lead them through adversity, whether it's knee surgery or whatever? And I also have heard a great definition of empathy and sympathy. So as a leader, and be aware of where you are in reference to the well. And if there's a well and someone's down in it, and these surgeries kept bringing Carmen down into the well, if you will, physically and emotionally, where are you? Are you at the top saying, oh, it's too bad? And there's times where we send sympathy. Here's a sandwich. But if you want to connect, depending on your relationship with that person, get in the well with them. We play a game that we made up in our house just called Shoes. If, when the kids were younger, if they were having a hard time understanding a perspective on something, I just said shoes. And we would go, okay, what would it be like to be there? How cold? Go through our senses. Would it be cold there? What do you think they felt? And I think that level and depth of empathy is huge. But go in the well and just sit with them and be okay with silence.
Shoes. What if our world would do that? What if our government would do that? What if we just say, pause for a second. Hey, let me get in your shoes for real. Let me be in the shoes of the pressures you have, the constituents you have, what if in business we could really get in the shoes of our employees and what if we could really get in the shoes of that person across the table negotiating with me? I love that. Great mentors are mentored. Get in the well with others and shoes. What does it really feel like to be in your shoes? Love it. Mm-hmm. So great leaders tend to have good habits on a regular basis, and I know you have some. But how do you it's really hard to lead others if we're not leading ourselves to some degree, even imperfectly as we try to. What are some of the habits of Michelle Backus?
Well, I think especially in this great reset, we are not driving to games. We are just all of a sudden 50% of our household and habits and routines have been rechanged. So one of the things that Ron and I did, we kind of set our morning routine, and that sets us. So speaking very freely, for me, I don't let my feet hit the ground until I've said a praise to my Creator. And that's Sarah Groves, Minnesota artist, is a friend of ours. Ron worked with her and she taught at Rosemont, and she has a song about that. May the first song that I sing be a praise to my God and King. So I start with that. That's a habit. And if that doesn't just start the day on the right or left foot, depending on which lands first. And then I do a quiet time. I do reading. I read from my Bible and another book if I'm got another thing going, and then I do my exercise. So I get my workout clothes on right away, keeping it real. Yep. I'm in my workout clothes sometimes at 3:00, and I can't change until I do it, because so if I have a podcast. Yeah. I did my workout this morning.
Yeah. Tell me this, we're all getting different ideas here. You know me, I've lost, at one point lost 50 pounds or so in 5.5 months. But it's work every day for me. Still, 10 years later, it is work every day for me to seek to be physically healthy. And I love the spiritual and other pieces of health too, marital health, all relational health, all these things are critical and I'm passionate about. But what is a routine for you exercise-wise? What is something that's a common way that you stay fit?
I just finished yesterday. I'm doing Beachbody. I did a Beachbody routine. So I did the 100-day. I just finished 100 yesterday. So that was awesome, because then I don't have to think about, is it upper body, lower body, or running? So I did 2 miles on the treadmill and I did day 100. And they're anywhere from 27 to 32 minutes. Except for day 100, which I have allotted for, was 53 minutes. And I'm just going to keep it real. I was like, no, plan on it being 53.
So what's next?
That helps.
Right.
I just ran on the treadmill today, and that's on my thing to figure out.
Now you got to figure out your next, right?
So I do have a subscription to this Beachbody platform, and it has 115 other options.
Sure. So there you go. But you got to, I think the biggest thing actually is not very often what you do. It's finding something that you will do. It's like, what is it you will do tomorrow, every day? What will you do consistently, right? Yeah. That's a big challenge for many. So What are you learning these days about leadership?
Oh man, I love learning. Currently I'm in a leadership group, a TLP, Townsend Leadership Program. For 1 year, once a month, a group of us get together, and it's focused on the book People Fuel by John Townsend. And it talks about what kind of fruit do we want, if you have a tree, what kind of fruit do you want in your life? Looks at the core. And the thing I'm learning right now about leadership is in the soil. He has a term that he talks about 22 nutrients that all people need. And you can have vision and you can have drive. And if you don't have some people skills or aren't receiving and contributing nutrients, you're not going to have the fruit on the top of the tree. So that's what I'm learning right now about the nutrients and being an empty nest. I'm not sharing this with Carvin and Bo. I'm talking with Ron. So poor guy is getting all this stuff. But even like I mentioned earlier, containment is been a great word. Just one of the nutrients. So I was part of another leadership thing that I was a model that I wanted to process with Ron. I said, okay, let's try this out of quadrant 1, or, can you just contain? I mean, it sounds so rote, but we're trying to, part of my homework is to understand these words. Would you just contain this topic, not fix, not suggest another, give advice? And he's like, sure. So I go through this whole thing and I'm wrestling with this and I'd like to see it this way. And so by the end, and he got into it too, he's like, you should really call da, 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 da. I was like, and we kind of laughed, but that's not containing. So, I mean, I didn't, again, we're learning this, but he would have, and I tried to share a need, and how often do we do that in leadership?
So true.
So that's something I'm working on.
There is lots here. Containment. Winning covers a multitude of sins. I like that one. That's so true on teams. Great mentors are mentored, and a whole lot more. The shoes. I love it. Hey, it's time for the lightning round. Quick answers to questions. You're ready for this. It's like playing lightning in basketball. Here we go. A favorite book or resource right now?
Well, People Fuel, I mentioned. I know before I got going on Savvy U, I'm a Bob Goff fan, and I read Dream Big. And it's a light read, but it's a good one.
Love
and funny.
it.
I laughed out loud.
I just remembered because I love, we read his first Love Does. We read that as a family in the evenings. What fun, right? I did remember we were going to ask another question. You've been an amazing partner and consultant, senior consultant for Trust Edge Leadership Institute. You've had some experiences here. You've been joined us in the passion of this work, but a couple highlights or impactors or transformations or insights that you see to this 8-pillar framework, 8 pillars of trust, and the work we're trying to do here?
Actually, David, I'm glad you brought that up because probably a high, and it's also an adventure. But it was my first international trip, and I went to Bermuda. And I did 4 days over there, and it wasn't just doing a keynote or a training session, then you're gone. We were living with them, and my mom actually came as well, and she's a trusted leader and in her own right. And so,
just to be clear, it was first international trip through Trust Edge for us. Yeah, for us. Yep.
Yeah.
First time we sent you overseas.
First time you sent me overseas.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Bermuda was a great first place. But what I was amazed at is how this framework, different culture, an island, all the same, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These 8 pillars work for men and women, young and old, WNBA teams, or the university at Bermuda in their leadership. And because it was in more of an immersion, we had a meal one of the nights that ended up in tears, kind of to this point of allowing people to talk about it and look at things. This framework gave vocabulary to like a lot of aha. Yes, that is what we're missing. And they could identify in a X-ray kind of format what their issues were. So that was a highlight to see it implemented and people really gather around it and then put it into practice.
I love it.
Right away.
It was so fun and so fun to hear back from them of the impact, and we have some more we're doing with them even after COVID. But I also am reminded, and there's so many different, you've done business and you've done all these different, but one of the groups was fire chiefs, right? Or fires across a whole state. You did kind of a Trust Edge Roadshow, all these different fire chief groups. Anything from that? And I didn't ask you ahead of time. I'm just wondering. That was just a fun experience.
Yeah, talk about leaders and talk about courageous men and women. And it was interesting because we were in 5 different spots all across the state. And the importance of trust can help your relationship in a classroom, or it can save a life. And not to get too dramatic, but they are on the front lines, and trust is important in basketball. You won't be on the floor if they don't trust you. It's important everywhere, but it is also the work that we do with the Trust Edge is changing and saving lives. That's pretty. And you didn't even, there we go. That's 5. You owe me 20 under the table later.
There you go.
Seriously. So what I learned from them, again, to have the vocabulary and to learn the discipline and how important it is for them to be trusted.
Yeah.
With each other.
Fun. It's just been a fun relationship there to hear about all that's still happening there and the common language and the tools. And you really spearheaded that work on our behalf. And I'm grateful for that. So back to a little lightning round here. Best advice or quote these days?
Best advice that I would share is, and I've been really thinking about it, is to have a little person in your life. I'd go 8 years and younger. And if you don't have one, find one. They'll bring us right back. I remember going on a walk in the fall and running into some neighbor kids we hadn't seen that very much. And we were talking with them and said, "Oh, is this your new toy?" "Yeah, but we can't go over here on the lawn." She said, "Because my dad just sanitized it." She's 4. Instead of fertilize, sanitize. I mean, like, oh, she's trying to make sense. Or my niece, we all FaceTime because she's doing the recorder. So we're all excited to listen to Ingrid do the recorder. And all of a sudden she starts going like this. She played the recorder out of her right nostril. I mean, you quickly forget about the challenges. So that would be my advice. Get around some young kids and throw something down. Throw your, not maybe a dirty napkin on your floor per se, but throw something on the floor, relax and do some creative play. Boy, that's 3.
I love it. That's it. And that's free of charge. Appreciate that. One thing left for you or one hope for the future?
Well, I'll go back to habits. One thing that I'm working on, especially because when you do start a new venture, it can sprawl. So narrow scope, I'm working on having a hard stop time to my day. Without this empty nest means I don't have to have supper on at a certain time, or I need to work personally. Ahead for me is working on a hard stop time so we can play.
There you go. Every night, every day now. Like no more running kids all around to sports or going to university sports or whatever, right? So, wow. Well, hey, before I get... What's that?
Your time will come.
Oh, my.
I love parenting. It's a change.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm working on in the future that I've identified is having stop time.
Love it. Wow, this went fast. We have, before I get to the final question, where can people find out about Michelle Backus and Savvy U?
Hey, come check out SavvyU.com, thesavvyu.com.
And this will be in the show notes, and you can see it at trustedleadershow.com. It'll be all there, and how to find Michelle Backus. Thank you so much for being on. We'll have one more question for you. It's the Trusted Leader Show. Who is a leader you trust and why?
Well, there's several. Not to do the family mom thing. I trust Maya more. We're talking about the Lynx. I really would trust Maya more. She's younger than me, and that's exciting to me to know that there's young women out there. She left the game at the top of her game for things that she was pursuing, and that were even bigger than basketball. And she's the real deal. And it's fun when you're around people that are the real deal, that walk their talk. So I trust her.
That's great.
And I learned from her, especially when it comes to racial reconciliation. And So Maya Moore.
Maya Moore, one of the many you could have named. Thank you for that. So you'll find everything in the show notes. This has been a treat. Michelle, thank you for the work you do for Trust Edge Leadership Institute. I'm excited about the work you are doing and with this newish venture and adventure in Savvy U. And thanks for being an example to so many and mentoring so many for good. I'm so grateful. You've made us better. And we just so grateful for you as a friend too. So thank you, Michelle.
The same way. Thank you, David. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Trusted Leader Show. Thanks so much. Until next time, stay trusted.